Very first question is,
Mm,
how have you been? And I want the realist answer that you can give me.
okay. I would say the realest I can say is extremely stressed,
Mm,
anxious,
mm.
and also grateful. So I feel, I don't know if that's an emotion, but I feel supported.
Mm.
But at the same time, like pushing, put like wanting to do more, feeling I'm not doing enough, you know?
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to talk about. I have a ton of questions.
Mm.
So I guess the first question for that response is what you mentioned the word anxious. Help me understand, what do you mean by anxious?
So I'll give you some context. Like right now, I'm kind of doing my first time doing an event, right? Speaking in
Mhm,
front of a lot of
mhm,
people.
mhm,
I've done this before. Like I've done presentations with back in the military for training my crew members on a certain topic or whatnot. And I'm doing it again. It's just I haven't done it in a while.
mm,
So I feel like I have some expectations to meet
mm.
on my of my own, and then also the people I'm with because I haven't done one with them before. So it's a little bit of both of those things, you know, like I want to make sure that it's good for the people who's showing up, and I want to make sure they walk away with something valuable, but at the same time, I also want to do it for myself so I know I can do it because I have done it. It's just I haven't done it in a while. Um, and then also I want to make sure everyone that comes there, like that's speaking there, feels like they they would like to do it again sometime. You know, they felt like they liked the event the way they was set up, and I put my best foot forward and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah, so I noticed that you mentioned the word expectations. You said that you want to meet expectations. Where do those expectations come from?
I'm switching over a moment, but I think primarily uh I set myself up with a timeline,
Hmm.
and I have like this, right, like I have these goals that I want to meet, right?
Mhm.
And I have this kind of mind frame of myself that like if I don't have anything to fall back with, that it will allow me to push myself further because then I'm not in that comfort zone. You know what I mean?
It
So
sounds like
I
you don't want the plan B.
say again,
It sounds like you don't want the plan B.
I don't.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And I have the plan B there, but it requires so much of deteriorating the dreams and aspirations I've set up for myself. And I don't want to allow myself to fall back. Even then, it's not falling back, you know? I know it's not falling back, but it feels like that to me, you
What
know?
was your plan B before?
I would say so. Since I go to the military, I came from the military.
Uh-huh.
We have this college that like they get your college paid for. So it'd just be
Whole thing?
going and yeah, the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and that would be my plan B, and it would be paid housing, paid college, paid
Wow.
everything.
Wait,
Yeah.
any college you want or specific colleges?
There's certain colleges,
Okay.
like certain colleges they'll pay out everything, and other colleges you'll have to come out of pocket if you want to attend those. You know.
Right, right.
So I would go for the college that where I don't have to come out of pocket for those sort of things. But yeah, it's all different. Like I'm sure like the more expensive private ones, you'll definitely have to come out of pocket for those sorts of things, but they'll pay a portion of it. For colleges where they're like more kind of like they have their own veteran programs and stuff like that, they'll have it all paid for. And
That
then there's probably small things like that you might have to figure out on your own, you know. Each college is going to be slightly different, you know.
So what is your plan A? Tell me what your plan A is.
My plan A is do real estate for at least a year and see what I learn and see if I want to continue doing it. Because yes, I want to do this for the next 10 years, but at the same time, I have to be realistic with where I am right now in my situation. Does my situation allow that? Does it allow for me to take a year and not make anything, or a year and not be able to fund whatever, which I set myself up pretty well to do that. Like I'm not going and living all by myself in an apartment where I have to pay rent every month, you know, or have I have a paid out car, so I don't have to worry about a monthly car bill, you know,
How
stuff
old are
like
you
that.
again, man?
24.
Oh, you're a young dude, man. I'm 35.
Yeah,
Man. I'm way older
yeah,
than you. But
yeah,
well, I want to slip it in there that even if you make no closings in your first year, that has
yeah,
nothing to do with your second year. No,
yeah.
you can make zero closings in your first year and 20 closings in your second year. The two are not related.
Of course. Yeah. No, I believe that. I definitely see that more now, but I think my expectation still lingers because seeing is believing, you know? It's like I know that's the true reality of the situation, but my mind is always it's emotional, you know? You're like you sometimes stick to these irrational thoughts that aren't the reality of what's going on around you, you know? And the only thing you can do is keep on putting in the reps to overcome those thoughts, you know?
So it sounds like you're trying out real estate, but you're not 100% sure that that's what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, I want to, but at the same time, there's those kind of like, there's always something in the back of your head until you do it for long enough where you feel like this is exactly it. And I think that's no matter where I go, I always feel that way. So it's always going to be like, have that like, oh, if this doesn't work out, I can always go another way. But at the same time, I very rarely feel comfortable changing my entire life to accommodate for something unless I prepare myself to go do that thing. You know, I'm very big on like I want myself to feel prepared and like ready to make that step. Obviously, sometimes that's not the case in most situations, but each time I do it, I feel more comfortable that I can do it and I feel supported, you know.
Yeah. So that I know that you were a soldier. How long were you a soldier for?
I was a sailor, Navy, for 5.5 years.
Oh wow, five. I didn't know it was that long. And
Yeah,
that they say that people from the military tend to be very, very organized and very heavy on being prepared, very
yeah,
clean. And like I can sense that military in you. I was actually just coincidentally last night I was watching a video about Marines, and it was saying how Marines, basically how the entire process is torture, and how Marines, like they often come out like very prepared and organized. And I sense that in you. Like you seem like a very like organized and clean. And I'm willing to bet that your room is clean. And am I wrong about that?
yeah. It is a mess.
Oh, it's a mess. Okay. So, like I have a friend who was in the National Guard, and like his room is always like very, very tidy. A lot of soldiers, because I know in the military they force you to be tidy,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So,
they do.
a
They
lot
do.
of soldiers come out like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they do monthly, like they'll check your room and they'll do an inspection of your room and they'll see if it meets standards. I think it definitely changes when you're in that, like, if you're in the base, if you're in the barracks, you know,
uh-huh.
and then living outside of it. You at first you're like, oh, you're at work,
Hmm.
you know. You're at the location where you work and you sleep at the same time. So you're always feeling that like you're never really leaving. So you never have a chance to kind of feel like you can breathe. And
Relaxed.
as soon as you do, and you get your own place, like I had my own place for a little bit, I think like it was like a year. You finally feel that you can kind of like you're not worried about someone coming through the door and be like inspection, or like or yeah, like something like that. Like once I had my own place, I was like, all right, I can be more relaxed. But at the same time, I think when you're so extreme on one side, when you finally feel like you can relax, you go so extreme on the other side sometimes too, you know?
Yeah, that
So
sounds like a pretty anxiety provoking experience.
yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
And
Yeah.
and now I'm wondering if that anxiety carried out and carried over into your personal life.
I think a little bit probably did. I think uh I think most of it came from childhood and my upbringing, but I think a lot of the things that I did in the last 5 years shaped a lot of the way I feel now too.
So,
Um,
Bakar, are you comfortable talking about your childhood?
of course, yeah.
So let's talk about it. What do you mean? Because you mentioned that your anxiety started in your childhood. So tell me what comes to your mind.
Um, Culturally,
Hmm.
I'm Punjabi,
Hmm.
and we came from a very religious background. Every Saturday we had some sort of religious event going on. We call it satsang,
Hmm.
and there's always someone there in your house. We're like doing these events, and everyone's showing up and stuff like that. And sometimes they just like they tell you exactly what to do, what to wear. Don't talk to this person, talk to this person. Be courteous, be respectful, stuff like that. So like I always had that sort of mantra pushed on me. So I was already kind of like feeling the anxiety that I had to meet some sort of standard set upon myself through that. And then as I grew up, I moved out here to Long Island
Hmm. Where were you
and
from before?
Queens.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in like New Hyde Park, Queens area around there. And yeah, I grew up over there. And then in like, I would say like my 11 to 14 years of age, I moved out here and we kind of like separated a little more. We had a little more freedom. We had some more room to kind of feel like there was a room for us to breathe.
Hmm.
And and then I think the everyone grew up in that same kind of like that cultural like um pressure.
Uh-huh.
So even though we weren't in the same location as them, everyone in the family still never really fully felt like they can kind of breathe, you know, and that standard kind of always followed you everywhere you went. Now as an adult, I feel that like you are allowed to feel what you feel. The
Yes.
standards aren't there to provoke you, but more to kind of like show your appreciation for people. But it's not a requirement. It's uh, a thing that you do to show people that you respect them and their time and who they are. Before that, I didn't know who was who. You're just being nice to anyone and everyone, and you're just trying to make sure that your parent or your guardian or your family isn't um you don't make them angry or whatever you know so that was also something that I had to like realize that like the military wasn't my first time feeling that. It was
Mhm.
just um it was something that they just did incorporate, but they also incorporated some sort of like freedom within it, but you had the standard you had to follow throughout.
Balkar, would you consider yourself a people pleaser?
I'd say so.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is because it sounds like what I'm hearing is that
Mm,
you were forced to please other people growing up.
mm.
You were forced to please and impress other people. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so because right now I feel more like a people pleaser because of the relationships that I have to build with people right now
Mm.
as an agent.
Yes.
I think I was more relaxed when I came out of the military and or when I was like my last couple years in there because I felt like I met the expectation and now I can kind of relax on it.
Mhm.
But it made me realize that like you can do both without going extreme and pushing all this anxiety on yourself too, you know?
Were your
But
parents like loving parents growing up?
oh, I would say they're loving in their own way, you know,
Tough
not
love?
like the cult like not like the way that Americans love,
Hmm.
but they love through what they tell you and teach you, you know, the way they want you to live life. But they don't ever say it, you know? It's very rare that you hear it,
And
you
what
know?
is your understanding of why they never say it?
From my understanding, it's probably just because it's generational. Like their parents didn't say to them, and their parents didn't say to them, and they don't. It's not something that they want. They've been surrounded by, so they have no feeling or need to. They have no real like. They don't appreciate the emotionality of expressing yourself because it's all about like meeting or being the way that that your family wants you to be, you know?
Yeah, that sounds like kind of a cold experience to me.
Yeah, I'd say so. You know,
I mean, it sounds
the
like they
kids
were
are.
constantly telling you what to do and how to do it and where to do it and how to please
Mhm,
other people and how to impress other people and how to look. And it sounds like they were telling you more what to do than
mhm.
than I love you.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think it was exactly that way because there was probably moments in time where they weren't like that, but that was kind of the feeling and sense I left with from looking back on it, you know.
So I'm gonna ask a kind of a difficult question, but is there a part of you that uh, uh, do you feel love today?
Mm, I definitely think I feel it sometimes, but it's rare for me to allow myself to feel it, you know? Like I think that's a part of my adulthood that I'm gonna have to recapture and kind of work on is allowing myself to feel those things from other people. Because it was a long period of time where I didn't know that I needed to, that like I was just kind of living life the way I was, you know? Um, but it's I do feel it sometimes, but at the same time, I think vulnerability is also huge. Like I need to feel vulnerable, or I feel like being vulnerable is a way to allow those things in your life. Otherwise, being cold is not, you know. So
Alcar, do you feel that you're worth loving?
I think it's a loaded question, honestly.
Give me
I,
the loaded answer.
yeah,
Your answer can be as long as you want.
yeah. I feel like at times I do, and other times I don't.
Interesting. Help me understand that.
Like like when I do feel that I deserve loving is when I feel like I'm in the position ready to receive it. And the times where I don't feel ready and I want to push everyone away from me, I don't feel ready. I don't feel like ready to receive it. I don't feel deserving of it.
What makes you feel ready? What makes you feel like what is the prerequisite? What makes you feel like you're ready to be loved?
When I'm ready to give it back,
Interesting.
because I feel terrible receiving and not giving a lot of times, you know. And that's like it's definitely an irrational thought, or the way that my I feel that like sometimes I do those things to the people around me. But that's just how I feel comfortable in order to receive love from other people. Like
And
I don't
what would make you feel ready to give it back?
usually if we've been doing life together for a while, like they've been in my life for a reason or a portion of my life, and we've been giving and receiving, and we've been doing things together, and I feel like they understand me. When I tell them things about my life that I haven't told anyone else, and I don't feel any judgment from them, but just
Mm.
understanding. Because I think a lot of times we just want to feel understood, not judged.
Yes.
And I know I have an issue with that, as well as giving out judging feelings. And if I'm doing that to other people, then I feel like that's an issue that I have with other people doing the same towards myself. But I also know that I need to be the person that, if I want to feel like people are not judging me and accepting me for who I am, I need to do the same to others, you know?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well,
judging isn't. Sorry, there was a little bit of an echo. So, judging is an interesting concept because I don't think that it's always necessarily wrong. Like, for example, like I judge P. Diddy and I judge rapists and pedophiles, and I don't think that judging is necessarily wrong in and on its own. I think that it can be wrong in certain circumstances. Like, I think that
mm-hmm,
when we judge each other for how we look, maybe, or if or racism, or if I were to judge you
mm-hmm.
for being Middle Eastern, or if someone were to judge you for being a man, like I think that it can be wrong in certain circumstances, but I don't think that it's
Yeah, it's
wrong
definitely not black and white.
what's up?
I said it's definitely not black and white.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's not just like you are or is not, you know?
Right. Like when someone is acting like a dickhead, I think that it's okay to judge them in that scenario. But like you said, it's not
Mm-hmm.
black and white. And I think that, I think that it's okay to allow yourself to judge if someone is acting like a dickhead, but it's not okay in the context of like race or gender or other contexts, I would say.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's also like you develop that kind of muscle over the years too, right? Like you may judge someone for something today, but once you kind of over the years, you can put yourself in their shoes and be like, oh, that's not something that was an issue. It was just, of course, if you were in their shoes, you would do the same thing, you know. But because you're not in their shoes and you're not their age and you're not in that portion of their life, you feel that you can judge them for those things, you know.
Hmm.
I think that's we always forget those sort of things. Is like if you were in the same portion of your life and you went through the same exact circumstances as the person, and you were given the same things to them, and you were surrounded by the same people, and you're in the same location, like you would be the exact same person there. The only reason you're not is because you went through what you went through, and
Luck.
yeah, it's completely
Luck.
like yeah. I was reading the Let Them book by Mel Robbins yesterday, and she described it perfectly. Like we're all just 8 year olds in on the inside. Like when you're having an emotional outburst or people around you are having those emotional outbursts, is because we disguise. We're all 8 year olds on the inside, but as adults we just disguise it better. And there's certain periods in that events that happen where you realize you can see it for what it truly is. you know?
Yeah, and it makes me really happy to see the world finally understanding the importance of the fact that everything stems from childhood, because 50
Yeah.
years ago, even when I was a kid, like we weren't really talking about childhood trauma and how it affects you as an adult. And now, as of recently, let's say the past 10 years, we've been talking more about childhood trauma and how it affects relationships and how it affects,
Mhm.
the way we feel about ourselves. Like, because obviously, for example, if you're never really told I love you as a child, and you're not shown much love as a child, obviously as an adult, that's going to carry over, and that you're going to kind of feel like, am I worth loving? It carries over.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely think so. And you don't realize it in the moment where it's a lot of these things. You're not told those things.
Hmm.
And then that's really where it stems from is like if you're not shown that those things matter, they don't. Like what you see in front of you is exactly what you believe. And a lot of people forget that. Like if you're never ever told those sort of things in your life, you are going to have a very hard time figuring that on your own. And what's happening now with people realizing it all stems from that, it from your childhood, it allows them to kind of unfold those portions of your life and see it not from the view of yourself, but everyone around you at that time too. And you can talk to people about it, ask them like, why were you like that? You know, what was going on? And then now you can put yourself in their shoes. And now you can realize, oh, it's not entirely their fault that I ended up this way. It was X, Y, and Z was happening that in that portion of their life. And I was there during when that was happening to them. And now this is what is like the result of it, you know, a person that doesn't feel like they can love themselves or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, loving yourself, every child needs validation, and if we don't get that, loving yourself can take a lot of years, and it can take it can require a lot of help. So
Mm.
I wonder though, what makes you feel loved? Like, I don't know if you know about the five love languages. Do you know about the five love languages?
I'm sure I can name off some of them, but I don't
Like,
know
so for
what.
example, there's like acts of service, there's gifts, there's words of affirmation, there's physical
Mm.
touch, and certain things make us feel loved. So my question to you is, what makes you feel loved?
For me, it's definitely showing people showing up for me when like in situations where I need it the most. Um, Also when I'm in a position where I can't do do something on my own and they are supporting me in my efforts. Um, Especially now, like I feel like I there was a point in my life where I didn't want anyone near me, you know. I didn't want any of that. I didn't want any support. I wanted to do it all on my own. I wanted to be independent and all the people that said they loved me were the people that caused me the most pain
Wow.
and you know and stuff like that. So I had to push a lot of those sorts of people away. It took me a little while before I was allowing myself to feel that other people around me can be in those positions where I can say yes, like I'm accepting of whatever you're giving. But for me, it's definitely people understanding and like I said, like I think I said honestly, a lot of the things I've already said are what my love language is. I think is definitely physical. Is something that I'm trying to develop now, and then understanding and loving without any like if I tell you my whole story
Hmm.
and they still feel the same way as they did when as before, I think that's very loving. That shows like you, the people on the other side truly love you.
Well, I'm also wondering, like, what are people judging you about? Because, like, if your parents or if you had a rough past, that's not your fault.
Mm.
So I'm wondering, like, what are people judging you about?
I think it's not the past itself, but what um the person I am now because of it, or like the events of my past where things happened and they were kind of outburst of my 8-year-old self, I'd say,
Hmm.
you know, like I wasn't able to regulate my emotions and uh I took it out on others, and that was because I didn't know how to deal with those emotions at the time. And if someone can love you through that, I feel like those are the times where you feel truly loved because they love you even through all the
Flaws.
things that they put you that you put them through, I guess, you know. Um, but
It kind of reminds me of this song. It goes like, I need somebody who can love me at my worst. No, I'm not perfect, but I hope you see my worth. It kind of reminds me of that
mm,
lyric. Like, we all have a bad side. We all have
yeah,
another side, and we all want to be loved despite it.
of course. Yeah. I especially because the more I speak about it, the more I realize that like I put a lot of people that I love through hardships,
Hmm.
and they stayed by my side throughout the entire time, and it was really emotionally like hard, but also like they they're still around to this day because I feel like it's almost like a test of how the strength of relationships with people. And I don't think I can surround myself with people that aren't up to it because I realize that I'm always not going to be the most rational person. And if they're going to stay around, I don't want them to stay around for like when I'm at my best, you know?
Well, it's ironic because to me, you come across as the most calm soul, the most calm person. So I'm also wondering, like, is there a part of you that blows up every now and then?
Oh, yeah,
And that that
definitely.
that's that kind of threw me off guard because you come across as so calm to me. So
Mm.
do you want to share a story of a time, maybe the last time that you blew up?
Yeah, I think I remember. Um, so I remember when I was a kid, we would work in this gas station that my uncle owns,
Hmm.
and me, my brother, my cousin, we were working there, and I don't remember what the outburst was. It was just like I think I just wanted to be a part of something they were doing or something like that, and they were working and just stocking shelves and cleaning around and everything like that. And I think I didn't want to do that, or I just didn't like being told to do that, and I just started being angry. And I think they put me in they were like, go in the cooler. You're too hot right now. And and then I think they were like, yeah, be in there for like a minute and you're cool off and then come back out. I was like, all right. And they shoved me in the cooler. I was like, all right, this is ridiculous.
They
I was
physically
so
shoved you in the
angry in that
cooler?
moment. Huh?
They physically shoved you in the cooler?
I don't really remember. I think it was probably. That's how I remember it. You know.
Hmm.
Um, and I was so angry in that moment, and I definitely don't remember what caused that outrage. I think it was just being a kid. You know, you get outbursts or anything.
Yeah, well,
Um,
that was my next question. My next question was, what is your understanding of why you blew up?
I think it was probably like feelings of not being a part of us, like the three of us, because we were like always, you know, put together. Like we're told like, hey, we're brothers. And it was my brother and my cousin. And we were kind of like always put together like that. And it felt like they were a little bit older, so they were kind of like cooler or whatever, you know. And I didn't feel like I was a part of it. I felt like I was always like told off, like you're the younger one. It doesn't matter what you think about or what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, or whatever. Just respect adults and shut up. You know, like that never felt like it came across as genuinely helpful. You know, it just
Yeah,
felt like,
it sounds like you felt rejected.
yeah, I definitely think it was definitely a rejection from like, especially from your own family too. It felt like weird coming from them because they're supposed to be there for you, and if you don't feel like they are, but they say they are, then what are you gonna trust? You know?
And you know what's crazy is that the number one reason, the number one cause of suicidal thoughts is feeling rejected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a lot of most people who commit suicide, and it's by the way, it's like 75%, 80% men. But it's, you know, men often feel rejected by society, whether it's a woman, whether it's family. There's a stigma where men are just, I mean, this applies to women too, but you know, people feeling rejected can cause a tremendous amount of resentment or anger or suffering in general.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think that probably one of those feelings of rejection, I think, is probably drew me to the military as well, because it felt like there's a place for me.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is yet, but it's definitely not here. You know, like I've I've always felt out of place, and there was a lot of hardships. So it was like, all right, and I foresee where I'm going here, you know, and I don't see that being a good place. So why not try this out? Why not go over there and see better myself and get in a better spot, position myself or learn life, you know?
Also, in the military, you're part of a team, you're part of a
Yeah,
group, so there's a camaraderie. And you know, one thing that I hear a lot from soldiers, from veterans, is that when they leave the military, they really, really miss the camaraderie.
yeah, I definitely think so. I don't think you ever get that feeling camaraderie with civilians. I think that's just because how we live our lives, it's so different.
Well, remember, in the military, there's a lot of shared suffering. There's a lot of like going through horrible and painful
Exactly.
experiences together. And that
Yeah,
experience of shared suffering creates a closeness and a vulnerability and that feeling of being a team and, you know, camaraderie.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely that's completely 100%. You hit it on the dime. I was because a lot of the things that we went through together, you never really feel. For one, everyone goes through it, and you're kind of like talking yourself and helping each other go through it together. There's a support between you and the people around you, and I think there's sometimes that feeling with people, but it's not something that's a requirement or a thing that people push or that we do enough of, I feel like, you know, like I think people very on they underestimate the importance of supporting people in your life that in order to make that decision like a lot of times like in life changing decisions in our lives uh you have to do it on your own,
Yep.
and
Nobody's
sometimes
gonna
you
come and
don't
save
need,
you.
yeah, no one's going to be there. You're going to have to go do it, and you either are going to do it on your own and figure it out, and then you're going to break, and then you're going to have to go try it again. You're going to keep on doing that again and again, or the people around you are going to support you to go do it, and you're not going to give up, you know? And I think That you really sometimes need that. Otherwise, it's hard to take risks and grow
Yeah, I
because
mean,
you don't
I
unless
would say that we live in a world where people are constantly asking themselves, like, what do I get out of this? What do I get out of this experience? And
Mhm.
we just live in the world where pe people, uh, it's like no, unless you have something to offer, people aren't going to offer themselves
Yeah,
to the
very
most.
transactional.
Very
Yeah,
transactional. That's the word I
yeah,
was looking for. And it's really ironic. I don't know if you noticed this, but when I mentioned the camaraderie in the military, that was actually the first time in the interview so far that you smiled.
really. I didn't know that. I didn't notice
So,
that. I
so
just
I'm
noticed.
I'm sensing that you have an emotional attachment to that camaraderie.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the last 2 years have been very difficult transitioning from military to civilian because there's not you find you find yourself very genuinely can connect with certain people, and other people it seems like you don't get that, you know. And it was a lot easier to do that in the military sense because we're all in the shit, we're all in the trenches, and it's you have to connect with these people because otherwise there's no way for us to move forward. Out here, it's like everyone has their own trench, and everyone doesn't want anyone else in their trench, and you never really have like a real conversation with most people. And it's
Transactional.
yeah, it's transactional. You have to offer something in order uh, to receive the tr the trench treatment, I'd say. Like you get to see the person and their life for what it truly is. And I think media is a big cause of that. Social media. Also, just like I think it was the same feeling that I was talking about earlier was like vulnerability, and no one wants to feel vulnerable around other people because they feel judgment, you know. And over there is like everyone, no one's in the military because they love their lives, you know. Like a lot of people say they go in for the noble reasons, but it's like yes, but at the same time, that's not really the underlying truth for a lot of people, you
That's
know.
interesting. So keep going, keep going.
Like you have to make a very big something huge has had to happen in your life where the military is the next choice. You
Interesting.
know, like
Interesting.
like you're homeless
Mm.
or you're you're you got divorced or
Or
you're
you're
coming
tired of
from
society,
you're tired of society. You feel like the people around you are not like understanding of you and your the things that you're going through.
or you're feeling rejected.
Yeah, you feel rejected. Um, People all the time they were drug addicts. They were like I think there was someone that was like a prison guard or something like that, or
Correction officer.
yeah, correction officer, uh, um, like sexual assault cases that they went through in their life, something like that, you know. And at that point, this is the only thing that you feel like will help you because you're gonna go in and you're gonna fucking push through it, you know.
It also gives you a sense of purpose.
Yes, yeah, definitely,
I
yeah.
used to have a friend. I don't know exactly what he was going through because we weren't like super close. More of an acquaintance, but I remember him saying, and he was like 30, 32 at the time, maybe. I remember him saying, I remember asking him, like, what motivated you at 32? What motivated you to go to the military? And he said, I kind of want that sense of purpose. And I understand what you're saying. Like, I can see someone, just being tired of society, being tired of bills, because that's another thing in the military. It might be tough, but everything is paid for. Your food is paid for, your room is paid for, everything is paid for at least. So, it's kind of like jail. Like, yeah, jail sucks, but everything is paid for at the
Oh
very
yeah,
least. So if you're tired of bills, that's at least one advantage,
yeah,
so I feel like I completely understand. It's not a surprise to me when you tell me that, a lot of people in the military, came from a broken life.
Yeah, yeah. That and I think that's where the camaraderie comes in. Like everyone has a story there,
Hmm.
and everyone has a story to tell each other, and they all kind of lather in it. Like we had a terrible background, you had a terrible background. We have an understanding, you know, and that's where you don't feel that rejection anymore. You know, you feel genuinely connected with the people around us because you all have that pain in your life that no one else understood, but the people that they are there, they definitely do because they've gone through some of that too, you know.
Yeah, like you never hear someone say, I have a really, really, really great life, but I'm going to the military. Like that doesn't happen. Right?
Unless you come from a military background, which many people do,
Yeah.
but
And you know that there
not
are also
many
like
people.
some 18-year-olds who like go for like maybe the prestige or like I have a friend, the one National Guard, he actually went for the money, to be honest. The money and the benefits.
Yeah, I think you definitely get sold on those things too. Like the college is huge. Around like 90% of Americans or 80% are in some sort of student loan debt,
Yep.
or
Yep.
they need to go. They understand that they can't pay their way through college, so military is the best way to get that. You know, so I
Yep.
know plenty of people that do that as well. So it's not all just like you have some sort of pain, but it's a big portion. You
So
know,
I don't know if I told you this, but I was actually a school safety officer for 10 years. And maybe like
yeah,
5, 6 years ago, I was in the cafeteria. And you know how like the soldiers are there to recruit the high school kids?
yeah, yeah.
So
That's how I
I was
like
yeah,
that.
so I was talking to one of them and I remember he said something I'll never forget. He said, "Bro, no soldiers want to go to war. No soldier want to go to war."
No,
Would you agree with that?
yeah, I think you're a maniac if you do.
You're
Like who wants to
a
put your
maniac
life?
if you want to go to war.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like why? In no normal circumstance are people going out joining the military being like, I can't wait to the day that we go to war so I can go out and just start, you know,
Well,
just
there are
start
some people who
shooting
who
things up.
who who just want change. Like they
Yeah,
want to go to war because they believe, like let's say you're fighting an evil country. Let's say like there are some people who are like who want change, I guess.
yeah. I mean, I definitely think those people exist.
Mm.
I don't think those are the people are the reasons why they join. You know, like I think people join because of a political stance and they feel like something's about to happen and they want to be a part of it, or it's sacrificial, you know. They feel like they want to join, like how you said, purpose, but they also feel like they want to end on their own like circumstances or something like that. Like I said, like painful experiences,
Mm.
and they want to end on their own terms. They want to end on a noble term because they don't feel like their life is genuinely doing it. You know?
And how do you feel about like the whole like screaming culture? Because the military is a lot of screaming, a lot of condescending, a lot of talking down to recruits, especially in boot camp. How do you feel about that whole screaming culture?
Um, I mean, obviously, when I was going through it, I did not have a taste for it. But after my years of experience in the military and meeting the people that join, there's an understanding of why they do it, right? Because when I first joined, I was straight out of high school. Like this is the first time you are outside, you're an adult, and then you're not with your parents, there's no support around you. You have to figure this
Rangers.
shit out on your own. Yeah. Like you gotta wake the fuck up. Like this is the day where everything changes. So that screaming culture is definitely something that wakes you up every morning, you know? Like you are not where you were before, you know, like this is a completely different lifestyle.
So it
And
sounds like you're for it. You're for the screaming.
I think I'm for it for the reasons that it helps people kind of like get up, understand that this is not like your 9 to 5, you know, like you have to understand that this is not something that's you can just kind of wake up and just go do. You can't just like mosey on out of your bed and be like, I'm ready, Like I definitely think it has a place and there's a reason for it.
Yeah, it sounds like what the word that I'm thinking of is discipline. It sounds like it helps gives you discipline.
Yeah. I think discipline is a part of it, but it's also like realization of the decision that you made,
Hmm.
you know,
Regret.
because, huh?
This, I think that a lot of people in boot camp feel a lot of regret.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do. Yeah. And it's like, can you mentally take it? Because the military is more mental than it is physical. I'll tell
What
you.
percent quit from boot camp? What percent quit?
I would say I'm gonna say 50, but maybe it's in the 30s or 40s.
Wow.
Yeah, because people join and they like that screaming and everything like that shit tears them down, breaks them down mentally.
PTSD, anxiety.
I don't know anything about that. I think it's just purely like they it's remorse of the decision that they made. They don't realize the decision that they made and they're not ready to go through with it, you know?
I know there's this thing in the military where like they wake you up in the middle of the night. Have you ever had that?
Well, if you want to call 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much every day.
the video I was just watching last night about the Marines, it was saying that, sometimes the drill sergeant will come in, I think like banging on a pot or something like that, and just wake you up out of nowhere. And then what happens is a lot of people, once they leave the military, they have PTSD and they wake up in the middle of the night. And I'm all that this is why I asked about the screaming culture, because there's so many soldiers who come back with PTSD and anxiety, and that's why I'm wondering, like, is it worth the risk of giving someone PTSD?
Um, I think the thing is we're thinking about it in a different a different context right now, and because we're in a time of peace, right?
Yep. Yep.
And when you think about it, like if you're in time of war, at any point you're just living and you're in your barracks or whatever, and things just go off, you need to be up and ready and just go out and go do things. The switch just needs to just happen immediately there and then. So yes, it's gonna cause a little PTSD, but did that PTSD save lives? Like that's what the training was done for.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's PTSD isn't caused by the same thing. Some
Right.
people are had PTSD from never going to war,
Mm.
just the training, you know, because if the training is causing you PTSD, the war definitely will cause you
Yeah.
PTSD,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it kind of reminds me of like, all right, I'll give you an example, right? There are a lot of parents who have the mentality of, well, I'm going to be tough on my kid because the world is, and so I have to prepare them because if I'm too soft on them, then they're going to get, eaten up by the world. And it's like this sort of lose-lose situation because if you're too soft on them, then they won't be prepared for the world fine. But also at the same time, if you're too tough on them, you're going to freaking traumatize them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this weird, like you have to have like that perfect balance sort of thing.
I think that is is definitely true on most cases, I feel like. Like you never really know what the kid is going to end up like. So you do what you can with what you're taught. So if you feel like you grew up and you did it the right way, then you're going to do exactly what your parents did to you,
Hmm.
what you think is right, you know? or it's either that or you felt like your parents did completely wrong, and you're doing the complete opposite of that. But no one ever goes like, "Hey, I'm gonna do a little bit of what my parents did. I'm gonna do figure out a little bit of what I did," because that would be in the middle, right? So you're always gonna go in the extreme opposite of whatever you either went through or the opposite of what you went through.
Do you plan on having kids?
I'd say so, yeah.
And what is the difference between your future parenting style and the way that your parents treated you?
Definitely being more verbal with the feelings that we feel throughout the days, and kind of like not emotionally. I would say not emotionally. You like trying to regulate your emotions
Mhm.
and not avoid them.
Not suppress them.
Yeah, not suppress them. So I would say that would be my biggest point because obviously I missed out on that
Yep.
and I never had that.
Mhm.
And allowing people to feel the things that they feel because that and feel supported in feeling those things. Like it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel depressed. It's like, okay to feel all those things.
Yep.
It's your reaction to them that matters, not the emotion itself. You know, because we're human beings at the end of the day.
You know that there's
You
this
know,
stigma. There's a stigma nowadays that tends to be dying down, but there's a stigma about like men showing affection to each other, and it's viewed as like, as gay or as like as
mhm.
as like as like just negative. You know that stigma I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
I think they call it
but
like red pill, right?
right, like, well, the stigma of just I would say like some people call it toxic masculinity of like
Yeah.
men opening up to each other and of men showing each other love, but before we end this interview, I want you to know that you are worth loving. You are worth loving, and that's what I want you to carry with you after this interview.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't know if I'm gonna feel it, but I definitely appreciate the thought that went through it.
So listen, I ran out of questions. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Um, I would say that everyone is going through something, and it's tough out there.
Mhm.
And be try to be around people that will help you get through those things because you can't do it all on your own. It's very hard. It's difficult, and most people don't. People say self-made all the time, and it's never the case. Someone is always in their corner. They just don't know whether or not they feel like they are, you know?
That's a good point. That no one is 100% self-made.
Mhm.
Everyone who is successful, whether it's money or whether it's happiness or whether it's relationships, everybody who is very successful got some sort of help and support from someone
Yeah.
else.
Like your parents were always there at some point.
Yep.
You
Yep.
had parents at some point,
Mhm.
or at some point you had someone in your life that was there for you. Like, don't let social media show you all these things that people were talking about. Like, I did all on my own. I grew this business to whatever. I went to Peru because I figured it out on my own. It, it's it's either they're tremendously not giving enough credit where it's due, or they're like one of the lucky few, I
No,
guess.
I would say the first one. Unless maybe the only exception is if you win the lottery. Then in that case, maybe you didn't. But in that case, that's just pure luck. But yeah,
You
man.
truly want to build something.
Right,
Obviously,
right.
this way you're gonna get it.
It was great talking to you, man.
Yeah, you too, man.
We're gonna
I
have a
really
part two in a
appreciate
few months. I got you.
it. All right, yeah, let's do it.
Have a good one, man. Thanks.
You too.
Take
Thank you.
care, man.